What's up, new future builders? Welcome to another edition of What If Wednesday as we continue on this journey to build a new future for ourselves, for our families, for our communities, and the world. I'm Justin Morgan, the starter, the builder of the New Future Builder movement. I hope everybody's doing well this week as I have another topic for you. Again, I'm always trying to think deep, right? So I'm thinking about kind of my state of life, where I'm going, and really what great questions would be for you, right? And for me. So again, a lot of these questions I ask, I kind of asked myself, and sometimes a little scary. Like this one is a bit scary. So by the headline, you see it said, "What if you had to live your biggest fear?" Not face your biggest fear. Now, there's a difference. See, facing your biggest fear to me is like, hey, you got to. It's like this process. Like you're afraid of heights. Well, you kind of go up to a high place. You make it through. You go back down. Right. You, you make it through. Now, living your biggest fear is you just live at high heights, like and nothing you can do about it. That's living it, as in being in it, right? And I imagine, and so again, the reason I'm coming up with this and even thinking about this is because so I was so our son had to drive him to school sometimes in the morning, and he asked a billion questions. I didn't say 100 questions, didn't say 1,000 questions, didn't say a million. He asked a billion questions. Okay, and in those questions, right, and some of them are great questions. Some of them is just like too early, and some of them is like I don't know. But one of the things he asked again is because I think we were talking about stuff he was afraid of. He asked if I was afraid of anything. I'm like, well, no. And of course, he's like, so you're not afraid of anything? I was like, well, I guess if I had to fear, just be the fear of not accomplishing what I set out to accomplish in life. Like if I had to pick one fear, like that would be it. And so, I didn't really reflect on it that much there with him, but I'm really, sitting here and I'm like, how would it feel for me to have to not just face that fear, but live in that fear? So facing that fear means that I'm gonna get over it. Living it for me is just that moment where you're in it and you are just feeling it, right? And what are you experiencing? Like, how would I feel in that moment? Kind of if I get to the point where I'm realizing like I'm not going to accomplish all the things I set out to in life. Like I feel like that moment would suck, right? Like I don't know if I'd come to tears or do my internal man cry thing where I don't seem to cry, but internally I really want to kind of thing. Like I don't know, but I feel like I'd be in a state of a lot of sorrow, a lot of frustration, probably some depression at that point in time. And that's just kind of what I see at that point, right? And you're like, well, Justin, this is kind of like a morbid topic. You're not saying like you're gonna get us any way to grow off of this. I'll get there. I'll get there. But that's just kind of me reflecting, right? That's kind of me just like that's how I feel like I would be in that moment. Now, for you, again, I don't know what your fear is. I don't know if it's fear of failure, like myself, or if it's fear of bees, fear of snakes, fear of approaching somebody that you hate, or approaching somebody that you could potentially love in the future. I don't know what that is for you. Okay, but ultimately, think about what if you had to live in your biggest fear, not just face your biggest fear, not just kind of slide past your biggest fear. What if you had to live in your biggest fear? Like, what would that mean for your life? And so the reason I posed this is not just for you to sink into the state of depression, right, or to be extremely sad. It is to take a deeper look at where your life is now, either one or two ways. You're not in that fear right now. You're not in that situation right now. And if you don't want to feel that way, then you need to start asking yourself serious questions about either A, how can you never let that happen? And B, if you are on the slide in that direction, what do you need to make a change in now that keeps you away from that fear? Like if it's a fear like mine, and what changes, what kind of things I need to do, what kind of things should I keep doing that make sure that never happens, right? The other part is now that you're living in that fear. So when is that fear going to happen? Like when could I ever possibly feel like that? Or when could you actually possibly feel like you're living in your fear? And is it really that bad? Right. So that's the flip side, right? It's the flip side. So if it's not the preventative method or it's not the shifting method, then it's the dealing with method. And the dealing with method is it really that bad? Like, is your fear really that bad? Right? Like, is it the end of everything? Right. So even for me, like, if I didn't accomplish everything, is that really the end? Would that really be the truth? Like, maybe I really did accomplish more than I thought? Right? Is it even possible to not accomplish anything? Right? And really, what the source. That would mean that I didn't take an opportunity. I passed up on something. Like, I wasn't aggressive enough in something. I maybe didn't take enough risks. Like, those are things I can control now. Right. So again, it's just another way to self-reflect, another way to kind of future reflect in some way. And I think it's a really appropriate conversation to have with yourself. So as we get into the New Year's, everybody's asking, what your biggest goal is, and what are you going to do in the new year differently? What's your resolution? I've asked all those, so I'm not going to do that this year. Right. I think this is a very good question along the same lines, but gives you a different way to look at it. Just kind of reflect on it. All right. So again, what if you had to live in your biggest fear? What would that mean for you? What's your biggest fear and how would you handle it? How can you prevent that from happening? And if it does still happen, how can you shift, adjust, or deal with in a way that's positive? Maybe shift your mindset about it altogether. And is it really that bad? I don't know what that thing is, so I'm not saying it in a sensitive way. I'm just asking, like, is it that bad? Those are questions to really ask yourself. All right, y'all. That's what I got. I appreciate you. Make sure you share this with a friend, family member, or a foe because they need this information too. I will see y'all next week as we do this each and every week. Make sure if you have any questions for me, any what if questions you want me to pose, make sure you put them in the comments. And if you have an answer, make sure you put those in the comments as well. And as usual, treat each day as a building block to a better future. Peace.